The night was about to fall over Egypt, but something strange happened. It wasn't just the natural darkness that came with the arrival of night, but a dense, supernatural darkness that enveloped the entire land. The light of the day disappeared completely. It wasn't an ordinary night. The sun was taken away and Egypt was plunged into a deep darkness that no one had ever witnessed. This was the 9th plague that God had sent, a plague that perhaps more than the others represented total control over nature. Before this, Egypt had already been plagued by many others. Blood in the waters of the Nile, frogs, lice, flies, diseases in animals, boils on people, hail, and locusts. Each of these had destroyed something important to the Egyptians, but none of them had threatened their understanding of reality as directly as this darkness. The darkness in Egypt wasn't simply the absence of light, but a darkness so thick that no one could see anything, not even each other. It was as though the very air had become heavy and oppressive, making it impossible to move without bumping into others. For 3 days, Egypt remained trapped in this darkness. People couldn't move, couldn't work, couldn't see anything. There was no room for distractions or daily occupations. It was a space without life, without vision, where everything seemed lost. This plague was a profound message. The darkness symbolized Pharaoh's spiritual blindness and that of the Egyptian people, who had refused to see God's power and the need for deliverance. They were so immersed in their arrogance, in their belief that they were in control of everything, that they became spiritually blind, unable to see the truth and the light that could set them free. God had given Pharaoh many opportunities to release the Israelites, but he refused to see, and as a result, God sent the darkness as a reflection of the state of his heart. When someone refuses to see the truth, light is withdrawn, and only darkness, confusion, and spiritual death remain. But there was an important difference. While Egypt was covered by this darkness, the Israelites in their homes had light. They did not suffer the effects of this plague. This reveals something important to us. Even in the midst of great suffering, those who were obedient to God could find light and protection. Faced with the darkness, Pharaoh finally found himself forced to confront his own limitation. He called Moses and Aaron and said, "Go, serve God, but leave your flocks and herds here. Only the women and children should go." But Moses responded firmly, stating that they would not leave anything behind. It was a negotiation without concessions, as the liberation of the Israelites was total and there could be no partial agreements. Pharaoh, however, once again hardened his heart and refused to give in completely. The darkness that covered Egypt was not just physical, but spiritual. It showed that the more Pharaoh refused to surrender to the truth, the deeper he sank into his own blindness. God was not merely punishing Egypt, he was offering the opportunity for change, for transformation. But Pharaoh, through his pride, chose to remain blind. The darkness in Egypt lasted for 3 full days. But at the end of that period, the Lord gave Moses instructions to warn Pharaoh that if he refused to release the Israelites, the consequences would be even more severe. However, the darkness also served as a reminder that true light can only be found when one chooses to follow God and accept his guidance. This episode also teaches us something valuable about the spiritual path. Often, when we turn away from the truth and become immersed in our own mistaken beliefs and convictions that we know what best, we find ourselves in darkness. Darkness, in this sense, is a metaphor for our lack of spiritual vision, our inability to see beyond our limitations and selfishness. But just as Egypt was freed from this darkness, we too can emerge from our spiritual blindness when we choose to follow God's light and the truth he offers. The darkness in Egypt was not just a plague. It was an act of mercy, a call to transformation, an opportunity for Pharaoh and the Egyptian people to look within themselves and change. But just as they resisted the truth, Many of us also resist when we are called to see our own flaws and mistakes. If you are going through a phase of darkness in your life, it might be time to reflect on what you are ignoring, what you are avoiding to see or change. God offers us the light, but it is up to us to choose whether we will follow that light or remain trapped in the darkness of our own pride and blindness. This is an invitation for you to reflect on your life and your choices. What have you been ignoring or leaving behind? Are you ready to leave the darkness and walk toward the light?